Heard. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, and please do, you can start calling now. The lines are open at 1-877-932-9766. And as we are struggling to be prepared for today's show, we will give you other ways that you can get in contact with the show. Mr. Neely Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and later on in the show he will go into detail about that publication. And in my meetings this week, we were discussing why Mr. Fuller wrote that book, and of course only Mr. Fuller can really address that, which we're going to break the show up into 4 segments. So let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you this morning?
I can just faintly hear you, but I'm still learning.
You're still learning. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Fuller, can you hear me now? Is that better?
I can hear you just faintly.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. We are going to entitle today's show Books, in particular your book. And the question came up in the line of what do you want to do, and you obviously wanted to write this book. The question came up, why did you want to write this book?
Well, I wanted to write the book out of necessity. I wanted, just like everybody has wants. I mean, that's why I have those 4 things about wants. Everybody, every minute of the day, wants to do something. And when I say everybody, I mean not just people. All creatures want to do something. You want to cross the street. You want to catch the bus. You want to get out of bed. Birds want to fly from the nest and go and look for food and bring it back to the nest. These are wants. Every creature wants to do something. Once they're in motion, once they're awake, they want to do something. They just want to get more rest. That's a want. So why did I want to write a book? Well, I didn't start out wanting to write a book. I started out having wants. And the want was, I didn't want problems. My want was the things that I didn't want. Trying to eliminate problems, which is what people try to eliminate every day. Everybody out here, everybody with, who's listening to this, has a want. And among those wants is taking care of eliminating problems. People don't like problems. There's nothing to like about problems. Problems are to be solved. Problems are to make something that people want to go away. So that's what I wanted back in the mid-1950s. I seriously started thinking about making the problem of racism go away because it's very bothersome. It gets in the way of everything. You got any plan, if you're a person of color, whatever plan you have, you got to think about, well, wait a minute. Suppose somebody will interfere with my plan, whatever it is, based on the color of my skin. And most likely that is to happen. Every minute of every day, directly, indirectly, in one or more areas of activity, or as a conglomerate, all of the areas of activity. Economics, education, if you're trying to do something in economics, or in education, or in entertainment, labor, you're going to work, or trying to get a job, or trying to keep a job, law, if you get pulled over, or if you have some type of legal problem, you got to go to court. I mean, the color factor, is that going to have something to do with you standing in a courtroom, and you look around in that courtroom, and there are people looking at you and saying, what are you doing here? And let's get rid of whatever it is that you're here for, mean, according to the law, take care of that. And is the color factor going to have something to do with what happens to you if you're standing there in a courtroom anywhere on this planet and you're going to be judged one way or another about something that has to do with somebody else's business? That's why you're there. And something that somebody is pleased with or not pleased with, or something that has to be, it could be just a minor, what you might call administrative thing, like trying to sign the papers to a house that's being willed to you, or something like that. I mean, but the color factor is there. Where is this house? What is it worth? What are you worth as a person of color?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's in the area of law. And then in the area of religion or politics, the color factor. You want to run for office. You want to be a council member in the small place where you are, the town where you are, or something like that. Is somebody going to look at your color and say, well, wait a minute, this is something to be considered? I mean, you will have a person of color in this position, in this town, so you have to think about that. You want to be a council member, but somebody else may not want you to be a council member because the color factor is in there. And then religion. You get ready to go to a church. You're in a strange town. You just moved there. Now, there's a church nearby, but if you're black in the northwestern hemisphere, you think, wait a minute. There's a church nearby. It's right just a block away from here. And, and I'm settling here, and I just noticed there's a church 1 block away. And it looks like a Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm black, and let's say if you're a Christian, all right, let's say that that's what you say about yourself. And that's a Christian church right down there on the corner. Now, but when you walk in there, you see nothing but white people who turn around and look at you, and you don't see any black faces in there at all. Now what? Does this have any significance at all? Is this going to have any impact on you or on the people who are turning around looking at you? I mean, a new member of the church, maybe, all right, and it's you, and you're the only one of color, all right. Will this make a difference? Well, maybe not, maybe so, but it is a factor.
Yes, sir.
All right, and it's the same thing, the area of war. When people start fighting, who are they going to fight? And war means any type of conflict. You just don't have to have people with uniforms and helmets on to have a war. War is any type of conflict. I mean, anytime someone is robbing you on a corner, that's war. I mean, really, at gunpoint. You look at that as war. Because if there's gunfire and you wind up dead, you're just as dead as you would be if you were somewhere, a trained soldier on some battlefield 10,000 miles away from your place of residence. It's no different. A bullet is a bullet. Someone trying to kill you, that's war, period, outright. And you treat it as war. Don't look at it as anything else other than that, because war has now been declared. That's what that is. It's no different. And while I'm on that subject, if you're a person of color in 2018 and you're on this planet, you're automatically a prisoner of war anyway. Prisoner of whom in this war? The people who dominate you. The people who believe in white supremacy. They have already made you a prisoner of war before you were born.
Okay. So with all that being said, you felt compelled to put this in the form of a book, since that's what we're going to...
Yes, that's. I started thinking about that in the mid-1950s. Seriously, I always thought about it. I had to. I mean, by the time you're 10 years old or 7 years old, somebody starts telling you about, hey, you're a little colored boy. I mean, you got to be careful. You got to be careful about everything, okay? So I learned that by the time I was 6 or 7. I mean, that had registered with me. I mean, you got to take on that burden.
Okay.
I mean, sorry about that. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 1950s, I started saying, how do you counter it on a daily basis? And that's how I started writing what I wrote.
Okay.
It just turned out to be a book later on, because people started asking me, well, why don't you put some of this stuff that you talk about and some of the things I see you do, Fuller? I see you got a weird way of handling things. You know, and I said, well, it's sort of a little code of mine, a little personal code. I mean, I'm trying to, I'm trying to invent a safety net of some type, because I got to deal with all this. Say, well, why don't you write some of this down? So I was writing it down all the time. I had about 6 pages, but it ballooned over a period of years into 1,300.
Wow.
And so then someone said, put it in the form of a book. And I said, well, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Well, that's where we're at. So right there, you handle the what and the why. Now, in the remaining segments, we're going to get into the when and what did you expect the constructive results to be. But we're going to do that as we progress along. And speaking about progressing along, TalkTameItRadio.com is a 24/7 worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you, actually two. One is Conversate in the AM. Now, I'm not sure when that's going to re-debut, if that's such a word. I'll just say it's a compensatory word. But with Kahari and O'Hara, Conversate in the AM, and if you've been familiar with the show, you know that they discuss various topics and get right into it. And it's very, very good. And, of course, my show, the Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby, we had our debut this past Monday on the 5th, but we will do it again on Tuesday, February the 20th, and note the new time from 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. So that's 2 shows. All of these shows, or these 2 particular shows, and all of others are exclusive to TalkTameItRadio.com. And all you have to do is go to the TalkTameItRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and there you will see a list of programs that you can access and view. And I think they're getting together a bio so you can look at the bios of each one of the show hosts. And it's good. All that from TalkTameItRadio.com radio, the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our today's topic is books, and in particular, this book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and we are going through a progression of questions as to why Mr. Fuller wrote, what did he want to do, why did he want to do it, when did he want to do it, and then in the last segment, what did Mr. Fuller expect the constructive results to be on that. So we're going to do that and try to follow that format as best as we can. In addition to your phone calls, which you can do 1-877-932-9766, and as we get up, we will give you the other ways that you can access the show. Mr. Fuller, I'm going to take a Gmail here. This comes from JL, and she says, Mr. Fuller, a black nurse shared her experience working in a nursing home on an online forum. Most of the residents are white and suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's disease. She said that the elderly white residents often forget where they are and their relatives, yet they never forget to call her and the other black staff the N-word. How can someone forget their life, yet remember to be a racist? And then is racism ingrained for some? Thank you for your time, Mr. Fuller.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, you get what you're looking at. So I wrote a book about white supremacy being the dominant motivating force among the people of the entire planet called Earth. that people think about that more than they think about anything. Racism. I mean, race comes first before anything, before you start talking about anything. I don't care about what your religion is, you know, as long as, you know, unless your religion is the religion of white supremacy. I mean, you know, and then everything else is just a whole bunch of this and that. I mean, but this thing about what color somebody is, that's the first order of business when you get ready to do business on this planet called Earth. In the minds of whom? In the minds of those white people, not all white people, but in the minds of those white people who believe in white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first order of business. Everything else is way down on the list. I mean, sometimes black people try to say, well, you know, what these white folks want, all they want is just some money. Well, that's not true. That's not true. The white supremacists already are the masters of money, all of the money. I mean, they get money because they are the masters of money. All money that's worth anything comes from them. You know, so they're not scuffling around trying to find some black people to give them some money. Black people are scuffling around trying to find some white people to give them some money.
Mm-hmm.
All right, all over the planet. Black people who manufacture their own money have to have that money verified or credentialized by the white supremacists. Otherwise, the money is not money. It's just a whole bunch of confetti. It's just, if it's made out of paper, it's just paper, that's all. It has no value. You can't buy anything with it unless the white supremacists say you can buy something with it. That goes to show you the awesome power of the system of white supremacy. So the white supremacists, I've often heard that from black people sometimes. Oh, Fuller, you talking about white supremacy and whatnot. I mean, man, hey, you know, I mean, they just like everybody else. They just want some money. I mean, no. White supremacists want something else more important than money. That's white supremacy. Once you got white supremacy, you got everything. Not only money, you got land, you got the oceans, you got all the fish in the sea, you got everything. That's what white supremacy means, having everything. Not just some things, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely have all of the non-white people under your thumb. Black, brown, red, yellow, wherever they happen to be. And so that's what that's about.
Okay.
So it's normal. Getting back to the question, that's situation normal. Take that in stride, ladies. If you go into work in a nursing home, expect to be called the N-word all day long. Expect that. I mean, say that's business as usual. And also look at yourself for what you are on that job. You're a prisoner of war.
Mm-hmm. Even
You're
with
not what you call just employee.
Okay.
You are a slave, prisoner of war in the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
And the white supremacists are expressing themselves in that nursing home. So what else is new?
Okay.
You're a prisoner of war of the white supremacists in a nursing home that has white supremacists.
Okay. Now, with all that being said, she mentioned that these people have dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay. So they apparently do not even know that they're there, but yet they still call her and the other black employees the N-word. And, you know, how can that be if they have basically lost their mind or control of their thoughts, but yet they call her the N-word? How can that be?
Because calling for a white supremacist to call a black person the N-word is therapy. I mean, actually, they're considering themselves getting well, trying to hold on to their minds, because that's where their minds have always been. I mean, they lose that, they have really lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they depend on that. The world is run on the basis of racism. I mean, you lose the very thing that's been supporting you all of your days. It's been giving you your incentive. It's been giving you your pride. It's been giving you everything that you want to build your families on, and putting money in the bank and going out and looking for a job and getting to be an executive in an office and whatnot. What is this all about if you're white in a system of white supremacy? It's about white supremacy. So naturally, if you begin to lose your mind, you hold on to the things that help you to have a mind in the way that you're accustomed to having it. And that is, hey, there is a person with color in his or her skin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to mistreat that person so that I can get my incentive back. So I can, if I'm losing my mind, so I can get my mind back. Because to me, that is sanity. If I'm a white supremacist, if I am a white person who is a white supremacist, sanity is being able to dominate and mistreat a person of color. That's the definition of being sane. Being able to do that with nobody having the power or the incentive to stop you, that you can just do it and always do it and build everything that you do on that. And like I said, you get everything, your incentive comes from that.
Okay.
Your wanting, that word want, W-A-N-T, everything that you want comes from that. You lose that, you lose it all in the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
If you're a white person.
If you're a white person.
If you're being honest about it.
Okay. So when you wrote this book, this beautiful book, what category could that come under if a person is looking for that and trying to understand the prison system, and in particular this question, when this person is according to science, has this disease, Alzheimer's, and can't remember. What category in the categories that you have listed, because you don't have health listed, what category would this come under?
What category would who be in?
The person that has the Alzheimer's or dementia. What category?
That's what you call a racist. I mean, racist suspect. That's the best thing you can call him, because if you are an employee there and the person calls you that name, and you go to your supervisor, who ultimately will be somebody white. I mean, you take it before some board or something like that and say you can't stand these working conditions and all like that. And they say, well, this is the conditions that you signed up for and you have been assigned to. And so that goes along with the job.
Okay.
So that's the category. I mean,
Okay, let me ask
you're in the system. It's like working in a hospital, in a prison hospital.
Yes.
And you're a prisoner.
Yes.
And so the people in the hospital, I mean, might not be prisoners, but you're working as a prisoner in the hospital.
Yes.
So you remember the fact that you are a prisoner of war. Because if you are classified as non-white and you're on this planet, you were born in captivity. In captivity to whom? Every white person that believes in white supremacy. That's whom.
Okay.
So you look at it like that. And therefore, you don't get offended, because this goes with the territory. You've been captured.
Okay.
You were in a war and you were captured. I mean, you didn't declare the war. The war was declared on you, on your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And you were born in prison.
Okay.
Because your ancestors, if you were black, non-white, were born in prison.
Okay, got that. Okay, now, what I'm asking you is, of the 9 listed areas of people activity that you have listed in this book, what area would that come under?
Oh, that would come under all of the areas, really. It's war, it's economics, it's education. You're getting educated, okay, all right? And that's what you should do. You should use this as a learning situation. This is an excellent place to study. Just like any prisoner of war, you study the prison that you're in and everything that goes on in it, and take notes, all right? Hey, you can start writing your own book. You know, which is what you should do. That's what I would do.
Which is what you did.
Notes.
Which is what you did.
I mean, I wouldn't consider, the more they did this, walking around saying the N-word and all like that, the more patients that did it, I'd say, okay, all right, yeah, just fine, I just take note of it, whatnot. I say, I'm gathering what? In wartime, and that's where we are, you're gathering intelligence.
Okay.
All right?
I can see that.
See, this is not a social thing. This is not a feel-good situation. There's nothing to feel good about in the system of racism. Black people have to get that in our minds.
Okay.
We're always looking for something to be happy about, and this is normal.
Okay.
Everybody wants to be happy, but you're a prisoner of war. All right?
Okay.
So you have to take your happiness in thinking about when you're not going to be a prisoner of war. That's where your pleasure comes from. If you want to keep your sanity.
Okay. I'm going to have to concur with that because you have, in your book, you have what we call notes, and you have that underlined, and then you give explanations, just as you were doing now, concerning certain types of behavior. We'll pick that back up. TalkToHim@radio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the TalkToHim@radio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We are going to get into more of the book, some more Gmails, and some more questions. All that and more coming up next on TalkToHim@radio.com.
Are you ready to earn a certification in healthcare, business, or manufacturing while achieving your high school diploma? Then you're ready for Life Skills High School, a free public school option for Ohio students 21 years old. Learn more about your free high school educational options at lifeskillshs.org.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
Do you have problems controlling high blood pressure? Good news. You can enroll in Helping Hands Health and Wellness Center's health coaching program utilizing the innovative Twine Health platform. We will help you set your goals, keep in touch with you via your cell phone, and may provide you a free blood pressure cuff. Call us at 614-462-0114 or visit us on the web at www.helping.org to see if you qualify. This program is provided to you by a grant from the CVS Health Foundation.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
Think fast. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can become a big fire. Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov because fire is everyone's fight.
See that cute little dog in the pet store? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppies to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. Visit bestfriends.org/puppy mills to learn more.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Okay, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com to your app or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Hi, I am Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and our topic today is speaking about his book, which we will have him address in about 15 minutes, the information on where you can get the books and so forth. We'll do that. You can call in. The two that tried to call in before, you can now call in at 1-877-932-9766. I understand you can also now go to, well, not at this particular moment, but we are also on Facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can hear the program in its review. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And you can also do this now. You can watch the program live by going to YouTube, then type in the word Talktainment, and then hit the space bar and the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, and you are there. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And speaking about that, when you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, there is a share button right there. And what we would like for you to do, donation button, what we would like for you to do is donate to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller for the second hour of the show. And when you do that, we'll get some information and do that. As a matter of fact, and call your name out. Now, we have some people who are reoccurring sponsors: Brian Gaston, Eric Williams, BW Gifts, Helen Nance, Don Mishner, and I got a Gmail from JL, and she said that she would also become or contribute to that. So we're going to do that. So hit that share button, any amount that you wanted, or like button, or donate button, and hit any amount that you want to hit, and we will be glad. That's for the second hour of the Compensatory Concept. Also, this is not for this particular show, but Anthony Sloan down in South Africa, I want you to know that we did get that Gmail, considering ancient Kush and so forth, the greatest nation in the world as far as warriors is concerned, so we did get that. Okay, Mr. Fuller, as we continue on writing this book, and you were a military man, I think it was the Air Force and Army, something came up the other day that was puzzling, and it was discussed among the group that I'm with, and maybe you would know something about it because you're a military man, was a military man. This thing that the president wants to do, have a military parade, we couldn't get understanding about that, and obviously we couldn't ask him, but since you were in the military, maybe you can give us some insight as to why a president would want to have a military parade.
Oh, well, anytime anybody wants, talking about the WANTS, the person that wants whatever they want is the only person, really, who should express what it is that they want, why they want it, and what they expect the constructive result to be. So since you said that President Trump has expressed a want, WANTS, for a military parade, whatever that means, he is the only person, I guess, according to logic, to express also why he wants it, how he expects to get it, what plan he has for it, and what he expects the constructive result to be. I could not speak for him and what it is that, why he wants that, why that's necessary for him. But I'm quite sure that, or rather I'm reasonably certain that he can say something about it if asked, since apparently, from what you're telling me, he brought it up. See, people should explain what it is that, if it's something that they want, they should be able to explain why they want it.
Okay.
And how they plan to get it. And the fourth thing, what they expect, what that person expects the constructive result to be. Oh. I can't speak for Mr. Trump.
Okay, well,
Mr. Trump is quite loquacious, as they say.
Right.
And able to speak for himself. And I imagine if a person asked him that question, he could give them the answer.
Okay, I'm going to table that just for a second so I can take this phone call, but I have to come back to that. What line are we on? Line number 1, what is your question for Mr. Fuller? You're on.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, good morning. Mr. Fuller, many times throughout my life, I have been in situations where I've been in the presence of a white supremacist, and he or she would say their views. As I look back on it, that I know that they were white supremacists for a fact. But for some reason, it seems like all the other people in the room, especially those so-called white people, they didn't check the person. They didn't question the person. They were immobilized by what the person said. Have you been in situations like that? And what is your thoughts on white people who hear white supremacist views, but they don't check the white supremacists? What is your thoughts on white people who are like that?
Well, I'll just say what the code says for me to always say in answer to this, to what's being said. I'll just go according to the code. And it's this rock-solid code. And that is as follows. In the system of white supremacy, any person classified as white and who functions as white and who says that he or she is white, they identify themselves as white, him or herself as white. That person in the system of white supremacy should be suspected of being a white supremacist by a victim of white supremacy if that person classified as white and who functions as white is able to be one. That's a racist suspect right there. So direct answer to your question, all of the white people that you encounter anywhere, you should suspect that they are white supremacists if they are able to be white supremacists. Now that word able is very important. Underline able. In other words, the person, first of all, in order to be able to be a white supremacist, first of all, you have to know one color from another. So if the person can ascertain, if the person is classified as white, and that person can make a judgment in the difference between what is white and what is not, because black is a so-called color, tan is a so-called color, beige, yellow, these are colors. Now, if that person is able to tell one color from another in the system of white supremacy, and that person is classified as white, that makes that white person automatically, to a victim of white supremacy, a white supremacist suspect. Now, I want to emphasize the person is a suspect. You suspect that person. That person is probably a white supremacist. Why? We're in a system of white supremacy. That's logical. I mean, you don't have to tiptoe around that. You can tell anybody that if anybody asks you that, because I will certainly do it. And I won't half step about it. I won't stumble either. All right? I'll just simply say, hey, I suspect any white person around me to be a white supremacist if that person is able to be one. I'm not sure that the person is one. The person may not be one. But I'm duty bound to suspect a white person who is able to be a white supremacist as being a white supremacist until that person proves to me, not to someone else, and this is very important, not to someone else, that person has to prove to me individually that he or she is not a racist. And this is very important, too. That's the United Independent factor, according to the code. Even if thousands and millions of other black people will come and point out one white person and saying, we know for certain that this white person is not a racist. I'm talking about a million voices, a million black voices. Say, I've checked this person out thoroughly. This white person is a friend of mine, is a friend to all black people. This person is definitely not a racist. And I'm telling you, Fuller, this person is definitely not a racist. And I got a million other black people who will testify under oath that they definitely believe, based on what they have learned and their experiences, that this white person, this one white person, is not a racist, Fuller. So take our word for it. The code requires Neely Fuller to say, I'm not taking your word for nothing. Yeah, you got a million black people who say that this particular white person is not a racist. But now that white person that you just pointed out, according to the code, has to prove it to Fuller. Because Fuller is not supposed to take the word of any other person about whether a white person is or is not a racist. Not ever. He is supposed to make that determination on his own. That is rock solid code, and that's not supposed to be broken. That's just the way it is. It ain't personal, it's business.
All right. TalkTimidRadio.com. We go where you go. And all you have to do is download the TalkTimidRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic is his book. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. You can go to Facebook after the show and get the program in its entirety. Go to facebook.com/talktainment. You're there. You can also Gmail me at the number 7, MrBobby@gmail.com, BOBBY @gmail.com. And you can also do this. You can see and hear the program by going to YouTube. Type in the word Talktainment, then hit the space bar, and then radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2, live on YouTube. Hit the, you're there. Then hit the like and subscribe button, and we're all good. Mr. Fuller, this is the 45-minute mark where we ask you to just briefly talk about your book and how we can get the book, since we're speaking about the book today.
Yes, you can get the book by going directly to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook, a counter-racist, a compensatory counter-racist code, and in it you will find segmented into 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And you can turn to any one of those sections, and you're supposedly to be able to find something that you as an individual victim of racism, because one of the supplementary titles is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. If you don't perceive yourself as being a victim of white supremacy, the book does not pertain to you. But if you think that you are a victim of racism, on this planet called Earth, then the book may have something in it that will help you as an individual person. Everything in the book is directed toward individual people, where the individual has complete control over what you're doing and saying. Because that's why I call it a thought, speech, and action. Thinking, speaking, and acting. What to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say under certain circumstances. What to do when people say things to you, like the N-word. That's in there. How do you react to it in the most to get the most constructive results? That's supposed to be in this book. Otherwise, it's not a counter-racist code. A counter-racist code is supposed to cover everything, but people have asked me, Fuller, where is the complete code? I say there's no such thing as a complete code until the job is done. What job? The job of no more racism nowhere in the known universe, and been replaced by a system of justice everywhere in the known universe. Everywhere you have people, no more racism. You don't have a complete code until you have that. It's an ongoing process. I'm just writing just a part of it, just a send-off, you might say. But, and hopefully it will take root, because I say that that's where the missing link is. The missing link is that we don't have something directed to the individual about what individual persons can do when there's nobody else around and you're just alone. How to operate alone without any other black people around, any other non-white people as a cheering committee or as somebody who's going to so-called back you up. No, you back yourself up, all right, by having an individual code where you can go anywhere among people who are suspected racist and function without becoming unglued, having your thing together about what to do, what to say, what to not do, what to not say, how to think about things that are going on around you. And there's a supplementary book, an extension of the basic book called the Compensatory Word Guide that gives you help along those lines of what to say and what not to say, and what the meaning of words, compensatory meanings, that will work in your favor when used. If they don't work in your favor, you don't have any business using it. That's another thing. You select what you want out of the book that will work for you. If something doesn't work for you, leave it alone. But everything is supposed to work for somebody who is a victim of racism. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And you get the basic volume or both volumes. One is just an extension of the other, but most people get the basic volume, a compensatory counter-racist code. The word guide is just an extension of the basic book.
All righty. Let's take a phone call. Line number one, are we on? Line number one, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
How you doing, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller? Can I be heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, what is your question, sir?
Okay, this is Brother Muko from Baltimore.
Hey, Brother Muko.
Where we hold the compensatory constructive action discussions every Saturday. I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller, and this is a question, by the way. I wanted to ask him, how do you feel? Do you feel that we're in a race war? And I know it's kind of noisy on my end, so I'll take my answer off there. But I'll donate later on today.
Okay, thank you, Brother Muko.
Okay.
What was that again now? Are we in a race war?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Fuller, do you feel like we're in a race war?
All right, thank you.
The answer is yes, and it's not a feeling, it's a fact. What is war? See, that's what I mean by paying attention to words. War is any time someone is in conflict with someone else. Any kind of conflict where, people are doing bodily harm or mental harm or a combination of both, deliberately harming someone. Is anybody being deliberately harmed based on color? The answer is yes. Yes, everybody who is a person of color is being physically and mentally harmed by whom? By those white people who believe in and who practice the system of white supremacy, which is the strongest government of people in the history of the world, the strongest political system, the strongest system of communism is the system of white supremacy. The strongest system of capitalism is the system of white supremacy. The strongest system of socialism is the system of white supremacy. The strongest religion ever invented in the minds of people is the religion of white supremacy. And all of it is war against people who are classified as and who function as black, brown, red, tan, beige, yellow, semi-tan, light brown, dark brown, extremely dark brown. Anybody who has color in his or her skin or is perceived to have color in his or her skin, or even if the person has skin that looks like it's white, but the person's classification is black or non-white, that person is a victim of the system of white supremacy and the war that's being waged against people who are classified as such. By whom? By those who believe in white supremacy. It's war. W-A-R. It's war. And anything done against that system, you can call it, according to the code, counter-war. Because it's not but one war, and that is the war to sustain and maintain white supremacy. They have already so far won that war, and all of the non-white people are prisoners. Prisoners of war, capital letters. I'm a prisoner of war. There's no evidence that shows that I'm anything else other than that. And I was born in the prison of the system of white supremacy because all of my recorded ancestors and recorded history came under the system of white supremacy. Now, I don't know what happens in what you call prehistory, but ever since the system of white supremacy was inaugurated, in other words, whenever it began, some people said as far back as 400 to 600 years ago, but a lot of scholars said, no, that's shallow. That system of white supremacy, it became complete, really, about 2,000 years ago. That system was off and running. And anywhere the white supremacists encountered non-white people, those non-white people came under those white people who believed in dominating and mistreating people because of color. All right? So that war, so far, has been won, but it hasn't really been, quote-unquote, won by the white supremacists until everybody stops fighting against it. See, that's when the war is really over. So plenty of non-white people, but not nearly enough, are resisting this prisoner of war status that we have. So the war is continuous. I'm belaboring this answer to this question because I really want to drive this home. I want people to start using the term. Just like I hopefully, it seems like I got people to start using the term white supremacy. It looked like it took me forever to get people to do that. Nobody wanted to use that term. Now you begin to hear it more and more. But while I'm on that subject, I want to say this. The white supremacists are also beginning to use the term. So look out, because they're going to start putting that little term, they're going to make that term to be less than what it really is. They are going to fashion it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using it. They haven't been using it. You might have noticed that. But now that they are using it over and over again, more and more, it means they have a plan for the use of the term. But we are going to keep, I'm advocating that we keep the definition of white supremacy, just what it is, all right, which is simply domination and mistreatment of people of color by people who are classified as white. That's simply putting it simple. That's racism. Racism and white supremacy are one and the same. There's no other form of it. And it is war against non-white people. That war has never been declared over. Maybe on paper, all right, but in function, no. There's never been a peace treaty signed by anybody, to my knowledge, that was honored, and there's never been a declaration that the war was over. The war against people of color by people who believe in racism. So we are, indeed, in all areas of activity, if you're a person of color, a prisoner of war. Put that in capital letters. If you accept what I'm saying as the truth. Because it's either true or false.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nothing on this program that I say or anybody else says is supposed to be false. Not ever.
Not ever. Okay. We are coming to the close of the first hour. So, Cleophas and John L., I'm going to attempt to read your emails, and we're going to go back to that military parade question that we need to get clarity on. All that and more. So listen to this. TalkTainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard.